The recitation of Allah's names is called zikr or dhikr, and the translation of that word is remembrance. Now, we have to understand what that means. What does it mean to remember? It means that once you knew something, and now you are trying to bring it back into your being. You're trying to once again know what you knew. That was a good phrase. Know what you knew. And all of us are trying to remember what we knew. And when a teacher speaks, we have a certain affinity towards those words. Not everybody has that affinity. Not everybody makes contact with what it is that's being said. Not everybody understands. Not everybody is able to incorporate the words into their being. Because not everybody remembers to the same degree what they once were. Now, all of us came from the world of souls, and we came into this body, and we have forgotten. We've forgotten who and what we were. And one of the things that we are in the process of doing is remembering who we were. Once again, knowing what we once knew. So everything is already within us, but everything is hidden from us by the veils of our attachments to this world. And in order for us to become clear again, we have to detach ourselves from all of the veils that hide the truth from us in this world. Islam is a surrender and a purity. The essence of the religion is purity. The essence of the religion is peace and love and kindness and detachment from all of the qualities in this world that don't belong to Allah. So, everything else that the religion may tell you it is, and everything else that you may be told about the religion, if it doesn't deal with the purity and the detachment from the world, you are not getting an accurate portrayal of the way, of the path, of the deen. Muhaiyaddeen means the one who returns the life to the deen, to the path. And Allah is constantly sending kutubs into the world to bring about a revival to the true understanding of the religion. And then men, with their own needs and their own desires and their own ideas, keep pulling the religion away from the truth. And somebody has to pull it back to the truth. And this is the function of the Ketub, to bring the truth back into the world, to bring the reality of the religion back into the world. And we need to understand that anything other than love and kindness and purity is really outside of the reality of the religion. And people are constantly, in all religions, bringing outside influences into the religion. The religion becomes political. The religion becomes involved in real estate. The religion becomes involved in war. The religion becomes involved in so many other things other than the purity of Allah and the essence of Allah and the names of Allah and the gracious qualities of Allah. So we, as individuals, have to give up our attachments to everything other than that purity. This is at the essence of the understanding of Sufism. And that's why Sufis, through history, didn't get involved in politics, didn't get involved in the ups and downs of what was going on in the world. Their focus was on the purity of the relationship between themselves and Allah. And they wouldn't let anything else interfere with that. So life became an effort of self-purification. Life became an effort of understanding the self. Now, the Sheikhs say, know yourself and you will know your Lord. That statement is common to everybody. And everybody, when they know themselves, will know their Lord. That means that between all of us, there is a certain commonality. There is a certain sameness. There is a certain oneness. There is a certain non-duality. For instance, if you go to a river and you put a bucket in the river and you take out a bucket of water, and then you take that bucket of water and you pour it back into the river, the water you had in your bucket becomes the river again. And you can't pull out the water that you had in your bucket. There's no differentiation between that water and the water that's in the river. Once it's put back, it becomes part of the greater water. Well, what we are trying to do is to come back and be put together with that greater reality that is our Lord. And if we move in that direction, towards that direction, we are all going to the same place. And we need to understand that this is the intention for all of us, and it is the goal for all of us, and it is a common understanding that we all have. So we understand, and we should understand, that there is a commonality among all of us. The only difference is how close we've come to that reality. What separates men from each other is the extent that they've gotten to reality, how close they've come to reality. So the lowest of men are the furthest from the truth. The lowest of men are the furthest from reality. The most transcendent of men are the closest to reality. So what is it that holds us together, and what is it that separates us? What holds us together is our common goal and our commonality in that we all came from the same place. What separates us is the extent of the purity in our being and the extent of the closeness that we've come to Allah. And we need to understand that we all have these things in common. Everything that I say, if it's true, you already know it. The act of saying it vibrates and hits a vibration in you that causes a memory that makes you know it's the truth and brings you to a point of further understanding, because that understanding was already within you. We need to understand that all of us have it within us to become that which we were placed here for, which is to become insan kamil, perfected man. Muhammad Rahim Bawa Muhaiyaddeen, my teacher, would say to us over and over, become like me. Now, if we couldn't become like him, he wouldn't have told us that. But we can become like him. And our goal is to become like him. And what was he? He was a manifestation in body form that had the non-formless qualities of Allah within him, and his actions were such that those qualities became evident in his being. And within us, we had an inclination towards those qualities. Why? Because deep in our recesses, they were in us also. They needed to be brought out. And so he became a mirror to show us those qualities that existed within us, to show us a methodology to bring those qualities out from within us into being. So we all have all that's necessary to move forward on this path of truth. We all have within us intention, inclination, effort, and a deep, abiding trust that this will come about, a deep, abiding faith that this is going to happen. We must have all of these in conjunction with each other, and we must be certain as to the outcome of this endeavor. We have to believe in ourselves becoming what Allah intended us to become. We can't give up on that belief system. That belief system has to be very strong. When that belief system falters, that's when doubt enters. And when doubt enters, that leaves room for Satan to come and whisper and create arguments as to why this cannot be done. And if we begin to listen to those arguments, we fall into difficulty. We fall into depression. We fall into situations where we no longer believe in the outcome that has been set for us by our Lord and by our teachers. Now, the fact that we are spending time trying to learn about who we are, trying to learn about the reality of Allah, the fact that we have been brought close to Ketubs and transcendent teachers should be an indication to us that Allah has placed us on this path to the truth. And it should encourage us to move forward and not lose faith, not lose intention, not lose our way, and understand that we've been chosen to move forward on this path. It should be evident to everybody that unless we were chosen to be in this movement, we wouldn't be here. Unless we were chosen to move forward this way, we wouldn't be here. But we are here. And we are together with a common intention, with a common understanding. We have decided, each of us individually, to leave all that we knew in the world, all that we've been taught in the world, all of the ways of the world, all of the ways of separation, and move ourselves towards unity and inclusion. We constantly have to reinforce unity and inclusion in our understanding of things. And anything that moves us away from unity and inclusion, we have to move away from. Because if we take on things that separate us from man, things that separate us from each other, we begin to take on things that will separate us from the Lord. And that is not our intention. So we have to constantly understand the nature of what unity is, the nature of what kindness is, the nature of what love is. And we have to be wise enough to understand when love is being preached and when hate is being preached, when unity is being preached and when separation is being preached. We have to be wise enough to understand the difference. Now, over time, different teachers have come along and spoken at their time and under their circumstances. Muhammad Rahim Bawa Muhaiyaddeen came along within the last 30, 40, 50 years. And he was speaking to this time and to what needed to be understood in today's world and what needed to be understood within the realm of today's technology and the way things are going on today. So I would advise that if you're going to read and if you're going to try to get information from reading, go to Bawa's website and buy Bawa's books and read Bawa's books. I would recommend Wisdom of Divine, which is a 6-volume book that has been put together into one volume. And I would suggest that if you can get a copy of that from the bookstore, you should, and you should begin to read it. What you will find is that there is a constant, non-stop focus on unity and inclusion and on purity and developing purity within our own being. Who is a greater witness to who you are than you? You know, we can all be sitting in a room together and not saying a word. Yet within each of us, our minds are moving and creating scenarios and having discussions and talking to us. Yet nobody else in the room hears us, yet all of this is going on. Well, how attached are we to what is going on in our minds? How attached are we to this constant chatter that goes on within us? How attached are we to this non-stop relationship that our mind has with the world? The ability to put a damper on that relationship, the ability to not give that relationship credence, reality, is one of the keys to bringing true reality into our being. As long as the mind and our attention to the mind is a constant in our being, our attachment to truth is going to be more difficult and is going to be failing. So we have to begin to work on a purification process within ourselves. We have to create an attachment to loving mercy. We have to create an attachment to loving compassion, to loving justice, to loving truth, to loving all of the names that represent the qualities of Allah. We have to do this constantly within ourselves. And then we have to look at our progress. Where are we in our love of the Lord? And where are we in our love of the world? Where are we in our remembrance of the truth? And where are we in holding on to our memories of the world? Every one of us has memories from childhood. Every one of us has memories from our teenage years and our 20s and 30s. And if we delve into the memory bank that we have as we grew, we tend to give those memory banks reality. In truth, there is no reality in those memory banks. There's just fleeting moments of attachment to the world that have made an impression on us that we're having trouble doing away with, that have made an impression on us that continue to haunt our memories as to either good or bad experiences that we've had. We need to wipe out all of those experiences. We have to wipe out all of our attachments to the past. We have to cleanse ourselves of our attachments to our memory banks in this world. You know, everybody walks through their life and they've created in their mind this being. And you hold yourself in a certain way, which is a recognition of who you think you are. Well, the teacher came along and told us, you're not who you think you are. You're not who you think. As a matter of fact, you're not. And your ability to find who you are has to do with your ability to give up about thinking who you are. And if you can't do that, you can't break through to truth. You just will continue to be in this cloud of memory, in this cloud of hallucination that assumes that you are something other than what's real, that you somehow hold a place in this world, that you somehow are significant within this world, that you somehow move and shake and do things in this world. The mystics truly understand that they do not do. They truly understand that they are not. They truly understand that only God is. Now, if we can take on that understanding and we can give up our attachment to ourself, that is the path towards freedom. But as long as we hold on to ourselves as if we are real and as if this is what we have to make bigger, we are adding more chains to our capture. We are providing the chains for Satan to hold us in place. So somehow we have to begin to understand that there is a commonality between us, and that commonality is greater than our individual existence. That in reality, we're all connected, just as if you take water out of the ocean or out of the lake or out of the river and you put the water back, it disappears into that larger body. Well, we came from that larger thing, and our trajectory is to go back to that. Now, whether we are inclined to go back or not, the journey has been set that way, and we are going in that direction. It's just a matter of time when we all reach that same destination. And we have to be prepared for that destination. We have to become pure within ourselves. We have to become cleansed of all of that which is within us that is not focused on the purity that the prophet brought into this world, that the Ketubs brought into this world. And that's why when it's said, come to know yourself, to know your Lord, part of the understanding is that you have to go through man in order to reach God. And who's the man you have to go through? Well, Muhammad not only existed on this earth, he didn't pass. He exists now, and he exists within each of us. And we have to find that Muhammad within ourselves so that we can take the next step unto our Lord. Why that Muhammad? Because the Muhammad is that exemplar of perfect purity that can attach itself to Allah, or to put it more directly and in a way that might be better understood, or creates the situation where Allah chooses to attach itself to us. So if we can become internally Muhammad, then Allah will bring us to him. So we need to go through the prophet to get to our God. We have to go through man to get to God. We have to know ourselves to get to God. And what is the primal essence of ourselves? What is the exemplar of true man? It's the prophet. It's the Ketub. It's understanding that state of being and allowing that state to happen within us. When Bawa went through and explained the levels of consciousness, the seventh level of consciousness was divine luminous wisdom. Now, he didn't give divine luminous wisdom a name like we name people in society. It's a state of being. So we have to enter into that state of being, which was represented by man on this world as Muhammad. We have to understand that state of being and become that state of being. Once we understand that, we'll understand who we are and we'll be able to make a connection with our Lord. This takes constant analysis of our own being, a constant looking and examination of where we are, what we've done, what we're doing, and how we're doing it. How is our relationship with other people? How is our connection to other people? What is it that we do to connect to other people? How do we interact with other people? What is our inclination as to what we desire and what we need and what we want? Is our desire for the world growing, or is our desire for the world lessening? Is our love for God growing, or is it being hindered by our desire for the world? What's going on inside of us? We have to constantly look at that. We have to constantly understand what is going on, and we have to pray that when we see weakness in our being, that we are strengthened by our Lord. We have to pray that when we see difficulty in our being, that we are strengthened by our Lord. We have to pray that when we have anger, that anger goes away. When we see differences, that differences go away. When we see hate, that hate goes away. That all of the qualities that aren't divine leave us. You see, in the highest form of wisdom, part of the name of that highest form of wisdom is divine, luminous wisdom. So the word divine is in the description of that wisdom, which means that the divine qualities are intermingled with the light of that wisdom. And if the divine qualities are not intermingled within us, then that level of wisdom isn't available to us. So we have to pray that the divine qualities come into our being. And what is prayer if not setting an intention? What is prayer if not trying to focus us in a certain direction? Prayer is bringing us to that state of union. Prayer is begging Allah to bring us to that state of union so that true prayer can occur, because true prayer occurs when Allah speaks to Allah. So Allah's qualities have to become the most important thing in our being. And when that happens, then closeness happens. And when closeness happens, it becomes more and more and more intense, and we lose our attachment to this world. We have to concentrate on this. We have to understand this, and we have to make this the priority in our life. Allah, bring us close to you. Allah, show us the truth of your qualities. Allah, open up our hearts and allow your light to enter into us so that we may truly understand compassion and mercy and truth and justice and kindness and love, and make those the overwhelming qualities within our being. Allah, bring us close to you. Bring us close to you, and bring us to the state where our love for you is greater than our love for anything else. Ameen, ameen, ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.